Welcome to AXREM Insights, developing healthcare through medtech and innovation. Join Melanie Johnson and Sally Edgington as they talk with our industry leaders and experts.
Hello, I'm Melanie Johnson and I'm here with Sally Edgington. Welcome to episode 4 of our partnership podcast. Today we have the pleasure to be speaking to Richard Evans, CEO of the Society of Radiographers. Welcome, Richard, and thank you for being on the show and allowing us to get to know you a little better. With our podcast theme being partnerships, I will hand over to you to tell us a little bit about yourself and your story.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here. I started in the NHS as a hospital porter. When I left school, I hadn't done particularly well in my A-levels, and I was casting around for what to do. And I actually went for a lab technician job at University College Hospital, and they said, actually, we don't need any lab techs today. Why don't you become a porter? And I said, fair enough. You know, there'll be pay coming in. And they put me in the X-ray department. So that was an amazing sort of coincidence for me because I was able to see radiography in action, see radiologists in action at the amazing department there at UCH. This was quite a long time ago, late 1970s and into 1980. And I thoroughly enjoyed being a porter, but it helped to make up my mind that radiography was what I wanted to study. So I studied as a radiographer. It's easy to say the rest is history, isn't it? It is quite a long history. I qualified in 1982 and had over 20 years in the NHS before getting the job that I have now, which I've been also doing for about 20 years at the Society and College of Radiographers.
So you've always had that interest, even from before studying as well?
Yes, I was always interested in biology. I was interested in doing something in healthcare. I thought I might have some interest in technical things as well. And I did have a friend who was studying to be a radiographer. She's still practicing, actually. And so I was aware of the profession, but hadn't really given it any serious consideration before getting that job at UCH.
Great, thanks, Richard. And we couldn't do a podcast interview without touching on a certain kind of your celebrity status. So you became an internet sensation overnight. Tell us about your encounter with Greg James and Lipa on BBC Radio 1.
Well, it was exactly as it looks in the video. I was completely unaware of anything that was going to happen. They picked me because presumably I looked out of touch and geeky with my inverted commas satchel as I was just walking through in front of Broadcasting House. Coincidentally, I had actually just spent the whole morning on the radio at an independent radio station doing local radio broadcasts for World Radiography Day. So that was kind of weird, a weird coincidence. Anyway, walking through in front of Broadcasting House on my way to the tube, and I was ambushed. On any other day, I might have just said, you know, I'm far too busy to do this kind of thing. But it was a guy who I didn't recognize, incidentally, with a BBC microphone, and a woman I didn't recognize in a long coat and a hat and sunglasses in the middle of November. And so I thought, well, I'll do this. Why not? And all I did was have fun. I have no idea why this was so picked up internationally so much. I presume it's because I was exactly what they wanted. Someone who was a bit out of touch, looked a bit flummoxed, but didn't actually abuse them or say anything rude about the song. So I just had fun. It was popular. But what was really amazing, despite, on top of all of that, was the way the radiography and the radiology community responded to the social media storm, I suppose you'd call it. I wasn't aware that people told me. I'm not on TikTok. I had no idea what was going on, but I am on Twitter. And so I began to see, radiographers picking this up. And then the BBC got back in touch with me, spoke to Greg James, who said, would you come back on? Because obviously there's more to you than we thought. And it was great. So the radiography community actually made the opportunity to promote the profession, to say what radiography is about, and to celebrate that power that we have as a community to blow our own trumpet. We don't do that really enough, whether you're in industry or in clinical work. We tend to be pretty shrinking violets in our communities. And so when the opportunity was there, it was brilliant to see how everybody rallied round and said, oh, that's not just any out of touch English geeky bloke. That's Richard Evans, the Society of Radiographers. So I was very touched and moved by that. But also, as you reflect on it, the power we've got when we start saying, this is us, this is what we do, is incredible.
Yeah, and I was just going to say that actually, to see how your members responded to that was absolutely fantastic. And that's the reason why it kind of went viral. And like you say, I think it's really great at times, like that. And when there's other more challenging things, that the communities can come together and show that support. So it was fantastic. And I still smile now when I think of when I watched the video. It was fantastic. So well done you. And I'm sure any of us for our organisations to get that kind of free advertising and voice, we would all welcome that. So yeah, you were definitely in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, it was a just fantastic opportunity. I'm looking for it to happen again, but of course it won't.
So you now a Dua Lipa fan?
Well, I spoke the truth on in the stunt itself. I actually did enjoy the song. Why not? There are many worse things I've heard on the radio. I didn't have any idea who she was, but I had heard of her name. I think possibly because I'd been to see Barbie the movie, and I think she sang one of the tracks on that. So I was aware of Dua Lipa as a sort of phenomenon, I suppose, but not I'd never set eyes on her. And sadly, I'd never set eyes on poor old Greg James either, who was also very charming and incredibly friendly one-to-one when we were preparing for the Radio 1 interview. So yeah, I just enjoyed it. Am I a big fan? Well, I didn't get my invite to Glastonbury, which is a big shame. I'd like to have gone to Glastonbury actually, but yeah, I suppose everybody keeps saying, have you heard the latest Dua Lipa song? And my answer is generally no. But yeah, am I a fan? I don't know. Probably not.
Maybe that's the next campaign, Richard. Maybe we're going to campaign to get you to Glastonbury as a VIP guest next year.
Well, if you can pull it off, that would be great. Yeah.
As long as you take me as your guest, I'll work on that.
I used to live within sound of Glastonbury. You could hear it a few miles down the road. But in all that time, I've never managed to get there. So.
It's on the bucket list now, so we're going to earmark that. We're going to tweet Greg James when we put this podcast out and see if you can get you to Glastonbury.
Right, super. Thank you for that. So going back onto yourself again, why are you passionate about what you do and what are your drivers?
Well, that's a great question. I am incredibly fortunate as someone that qualified as a radiographer all those years ago, still to be involved with radiography and make a difference for radiographers and therefore make a difference for patients every day. That's what the Society of Radiographers is about. And I'd always been a member. When I qualified, there wasn't any student membership, but it was expected that you would join on the day that you qualified, which I did. So I'd always been a member, and it's a great privilege to be given the role to run the organisation for the society and also for the college, which is our charity subsidiary, on behalf of UK Council and the Board of Trustees of the college. So it's an amazingly responsible position, I guess. I can't say that I have that. What's the syndrome they call the imposter syndrome? That's imposter phenomenon, I think you're supposed to call it now. That I had that for quite a while, but I'm used to it now after 20 years, I guess. But when I stop and think what a great privilege it is to do this, because I am able to continue in my chosen profession to make a difference for patients by making a difference to radiographers, and also to take part in growing the profession and making sure that the impact the profession has alongside our colleagues in medicine and oncology and all of the other allied health professions as well, to work closer in partnership. I think that's a great opportunity. So it's making a difference is what always got me out of bed. It's what, even when I was a porter, I felt that this was something that I could do and make a difference to people day by day, and that's still what floats my boat.
And Richard, I concur, because I pinch myself on a daily basis that I still do the job that I do and feel incredibly privileged to represent the industry that, provide the equipment to your members to use. So, yeah, absolutely get that. Obviously, our organisations have worked more closely together the last few years as AXREM has grown, and we've kind of changed and we've got more kind of direction and strategic priorities, etc. So what are the main challenges and commitments for the Society and College of Radiographers over the coming months?
Well, the big challenges are at the coalface, if you like, for our members, dealing with a very, very constrained workforce situation in the face of ever increasing demand for services. Of course, it's great that radiography is in demand, whether that's therapeutic or diagnostic radiography, and that's a good thing. But we know that there's been a gradual decline in relative workforce numbers, not enough people being trained, not enough people being recruited into the profession. So seeing that turned around has got to be at the core of our priorities. Working with the new government on that, we've had early responses from the Secretary of State saying they want to meet and talk with us, which is good. So that we're going to be keeping an eye on that, obviously, and working very hard to represent our members there. So we do actually have a new strategy in preparation at the moment, which we hope to launch in the early autumn. And the workforce, both dealing with the current crisis and building a workforce fit for the future from the policy point of view, will be at the heart of that strategy, along with doing things better for our members, which is always obviously a massive priority for any membership organisation, and the Society of Radiographers in particular. So those are really key over the next few months, and then looking further ahead, getting into what the future of the profession will actually look like.
Fantastic. And you mentioned your new strategy. So workforce is at the heart of that you're launching. So looking further ahead and horizon scanning, what do you think are going to be the biggest challenges that you see for the workforce and your members in the future?
It will be easy to say sort of change. Technological change is part of the bread and butter of anyone in radiography. You know, thinking back over what I've seen in my career, such a lot has changed down the years, but the profession adapts to change all the time. We're really good at it. So there will be further technological change, some of it I'm sure linked to artificial intelligence. It's, you know, everybody's kind of talking about and worrying about what's going to happen, but I think that radiography is well up to addressing those changes and going with them with the core principles of better and better patient care actually driving us forward. Is it, you know, I think the technical side of what radiographers do will inevitably change as technology changes, but the fundamental point of looking after the people who are with you, sometimes only for a very short time, particularly in diagnostic radiography, but knowing that few minutes is absolutely the most important thing for that person at the time they're with you, will always be at the heart of radiography. And I think there are going to be in future great opportunities for radiographers to get more involved in patient journeys, maybe even helping design and guide patients through their journey, and service users also, if they're not technically patients, through the journey of healthcare. I think all health professionals have opportunities to take a greater role in that, and in our specialities in particular, I think we're going to see changes coming that way. Obviously, it depends how things go, but you know, we believe that a high level of professionalism and an ever advancing roles for radiographers, overlapping with other team members, working in closer collaboration with other clinicians, is going to be the driver for the profession in future.
Yeah, and you mentioned technology changes. I mean, obviously our members are at the heart of that, and we have a lot of AI companies in membership, and we see, you know, the changes in even the big modalities. And I always think to myself, if you look at a mobile phone 10, 20 years ago and what it looks like now, you kind of also look at medical devices and you see those huge changes, and hopefully the changes help create efficiencies and are easier for your members to use. And obviously the main focus is it being a good patient experience. So that's really good to hear. And I think that the profession really showed how they can embrace change when COVID hit. You know, the whole profession changed, you know, how they do their jobs, and did amazing stuff. And obviously we were all hugely appreciative for NHS colleagues. So I'm sure that they'll embrace future changes, especially given hopefully there'll be positive changes, you know, with work workforce that is under a lot of pressure.
Exactly.
Oh, super. So now going on to my quirky question. If you could hang around with any famous person, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
I'm tempted to say Jesus. I'm obsessed with Jesus, I suppose. It would be that sounds a bit weird, but I've been a Christian for many, many years, and it would be difficult and wrong for me to not really want to get to know the guy a little bit better face to face. Someone living, I'm not going to say the Archbishop of Canterbury. I kind of admire him, but dull. I'll go with David Mitchell. I think he seems constantly interesting, very, very funny, but also the kind of person who thinks deeply about what's going on. So I'd be interested to hang out with him.
Fabulous. I love all the answers we get on these quirky questions.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. And I think it says a lot about a person. So that's really great.
Absolutely.
So thanks, Richard, for your time today. It's been a really great chatting to you. A big thank you for Richard for being our guest for today. And thank you to all our listeners.
Join Sally and I next week when we will be speaking to Jemima Eve from MyPem. If you have enjoyed today's podcast, don't forget to hit subscribe or feel free to share the podcast with friends.